Hello and welcome to part 7 of Beautiful Chord Progressions with me, Fake Dr. Levin. In the previous lesson, we talked about a chord that creates some nice tension called the dominant 7th chord, and it resolves beautifully down a perfect 5th. Here's an example of a dominant 7th chord resolving down a perfect 5th to a major chord. Now to a minor chord. Now that's a satisfying resolution. Today I'm going to show you a similar concept using a chord called Diminished 7th. And Diminished 7th, just like Dominant 7th, creates a nice bit of tension and then resolves really well. Now the Dominant 7th resolved down a perfect 5th. The Diminished 7th resolves up a minor 2nd. Now a minor 2nd is just on a guitar the distance between one fret and the next closest fret. On piano it's like a white key and its neighboring black key. Minor 2nd is the smallest distance we have in the chromatic scale. So, a diminished 7th chord, for example this guy here, resolves really nicely up a half step to minor chords of many types and major chords of many types. So I could go from here to, this is G sharp diminished 7th, I could go up a half step from G sharp up to A major, and that resolves great. Or I could do the same thing up to A minor. Really good. It also resolves nicely parallel to itself to major or minor. So if you take G sharp diminished 7 and you don't move G sharp at all, but instead you just go right to G sharp major, G sharp diminished 7th, G sharp major. That's a nice resolution too. Ooh, pretty. How about to minor? Dark. Both of those resolutions sound great, and they're a little spicy because they take some out-of-key notes and stick them in for a moment, but then resolve within the key again. For instance, if you're playing like A diminished 7th, resolving to A major, the diminished 7th chord has notes in it that don't fit in the key of A major. But when you go to that A major, it just puts you right back in to A major world again, even though you briefly went out of it by playing the diminished 7th chord. So let's take a look up close at the transcription provided with this lesson that guides you through many uses of this diminished 7th chord by showing a cool kind of jazzy sounding example. In the transcription, I took G major 7, A minor 7, B minor 7, C major 7, D dominant 7, E minor 7, F sharp minor 7, and then G major 7, and I played them all as 3-note voicings. Generally, 7th chords have 4 notes in them, but you can leave some notes out some of the time and still get the general idea of the chord. And in this exercise, I wanted these fingerings to be somewhat natural and easy to play, so we're doing these 7th chords as 3-note voicings. But we haven't really talked much about 7th chords with the exception of the dominant 7th, so it's okay if you're not familiar with them yet. So what we're doing is we're taking all these different chords in the key of G major, and they all fit perfectly within G major, and we're connecting them to each other using diminished 7th chords. So every note between each of these chords will be filled by a diminished 7th chord. So for example, we have G major 7, then we go to G sharp diminished 7 to take us to our A minor 7, which then goes to A sharp diminished 7 to take us to our B minor 7. So far we've had these 3 chords connected with diminished 7th chords which resolve up a half step to the next chord. So these resolutions create a nice bit of tension and release and connectivity through the chord progression. And so now, when we go to the C major 7, we're going to go from B minor 7 here to C diminished 7, which will resolve parallel to itself to C major 7. So instead of resolving it up a half step, which would take us out of the key, which would take us to C sharp major 7, we want to resolve it in place to a C major 7 there. And then we're going to play a diminished 7th chord on C sharp, and then resolve it to D dominant 7. And now a D sharp diminished 7, resolving up a half step to E minor 7. Next we have our F diminished 7, which resolves up to F sharp minor 7. Now normally, since this is the 7th chord within the key of G major 7 is 1, A minor 7 is 2, B minor 7 is 3, C major 7 is 4, D 7 is 5, E minor 7 is 6. Normally this 7th chord here is an F sharp minor 7 flat 5. But since we're playing it as a 3-note voicings, we're leaving out the flat 5. Now, if that's confusing, don't worry. It's something that you learn when you're studying chords more. And as I mentioned earlier, that's not exactly the point of this lesson. We're not studying the formation of chords as much as we're learning about the useful diminished 7th chord, which can help you glue two chords together by sticking one in between, or can let you find a nice way to create tension and resolution. So if you want to learn more about what makes chords chords, I recommend checking out Music Theory from the Ground Up, which is another one of my series that you can enjoy. Anyway, we're here playing F diminished 7 or E sharp diminished 7 to the F sharp minor 7. And then our last diminished 7th chord in this example is going to be G diminished 7. And this is starting to get really high up on the neck for me. And that resolves to G major 7 again. To play it lower and more comfortably, it sounds like this. And that's just a gorgeous sound. So now I'll play the whole thing at a more smooth tempo. So to use this concept in your own music, you just take two chords that are next to each other within a key, and you use the diminished 7th chord to transition between them. I recommend experimenting with this in other ways too, moving your diminished 7th chords all over the place and seeing what kinds of results you get from different resolutions. Maybe using it as a way to change keys like we were doing before. You might get weird results like the one I just got there, or you might get something really great. You never know. Well, you eventually do know. And that's the nature of music theory, is at first it's theoretical. It's this concept that on only an academic level. It's like, well, Ben, that's my real name, Ben. Ben told me that this will work, therefore I believe that it will work. But eventually theory becomes things that you know in terms of sound. And when you know a sound, then you know what's going on in terms of music. It's like, yes, that's the sound of a diminished chord resolving up a half step to, let's say, a minor 7 chord. And so the only way for you to get that level of comfort is to take all the concepts from all these videos and experiment with them yourself. Just throw off all the boundaries and the reins and experiment in all kinds of weird ways, and then put some boundaries back on, some limitations, following rules that I've set, or rules that you find from other music teachers, and just go with, as I was saying earlier, the heavy music theory approach and then the heavy intuitive approach, and find a place in the middle for yourself to make music.